You sir are going to build a hotel. 132 feet, 125 feet. But it must be 12 to 15 feet deep. So, we'll start there. It's going to be a grand hotel with an elevator and steam boilers and electricity. All the modern amenities that the fine people will demand. And we're going to start today, and you have 1 month to dig and make the foundation. So get started. We don't have much time. Chop chop. Oh! Minor town. Major issue. Location, location, location. So we're looking at this mining town, which happens to be my hometown of Aspen, Colorado. And in this series, we are talking about the construction of this town and the building of the major brick and mortar buildings that went up in record time during a mining boom in the late 1800s. So that conversation that was just had by Jerome Wheeler and his labor man extraordinaire, Abe, was held in this location right here, because that's where the Hotel Jerome is going to go. And this is a picture. And the picture date is Aspen, 1882 to 1889. So sometime between that time period. But looking at the structures, I can see what's here. So this is the Aspen block. It's here, and I'll show you that. I'll show you the Aspen block. This is a brick building that's already here, and that was built in 1886. So my guess is that this picture is taken probably in 1887 sometime, if you're going by official records, because there's a lot of buildings that aren't here. For instance, the St. Mary's Church will go here. The courthouse will go right here eventually. The armory will go here. The Elks building will go right here. The Brand building will go over here. The Paragon building will go here. The Wheeler Opera House is going to go here. And the Hotel Jerome is going to go right here. So this looks like just an empty lot right now. Maybe a couple little things back here. And I'm calling this location because this is Main Street that runs right here. And the Hotel Jerome sits right on Main Street, and this is Mill Street. So these two streets are two of the main streets in town. And why it's important is because there's mining operations going on over here on this side of the valley of the mountains, and there's mining operations going on this side of the mountains. And eventually, when the train comes, this looks like the beginnings of the train tracks here. There's two trains. There's one going to come over from this direction and come up here, and there's one that's going to come up from this direction, and it's going to come up here. But this area, right where the Jerome is going to sit, is it's right in the middle of everything. All these buildings are. I mean, this is a small town. And the population went from a few dozen in 1879 and then up to about 15,000 in its peak in 1892. And it was a bustling mining hub, one of the biggest silver producers in the country, actually, for silver mining. But I wanted to look at this photograph because this is before basically anything started. These buildings are wooden. This is the Clarendon Hotel. These are wood buildings. But I know this one. This is the Aspen block. and we'll show you that. We'll get into it. But I thought this was interesting because it gives you a layout of the ground before anything was taking place. And so we're going to look at digging the foundation of this building. And just as a side note, it's interesting. I mean, this is 1887, so the mining industry is starting to take off at this time, and population is growing. It's about I don't we'll point this out exactly, but 8,000 people here, and we're not seeing anybody here. We're seeing some mess on the streets, but we're not seeing any horses or people. And I'll talk about this later on. But for now, I mean, we're not seeing any excavation going on here for the Jerome. So this is uh, most likely the year before, which was a pretty quiet year for construction. But in 1887, I would guess, is when this was supposedly taken. But within the next couple years, you're going to have huge excavations going on here because all these buildings that are going to go up have 15-foot basements, a floor, one floor below with a lot of machinery in them, especially with the Hotel Jerome, which is where we're going to start, and the construction. So let's look at the Hotel Jerome. Okay, so looking at the Hotel Jerome here, this is from the old wiki wacky Hotel Jerome. All right, and I'm just going into here's some pictures of it here, and they're talking about the modern, because they added on to this building. So anyway, the Jerome, looking at the history. Construction, 1889 to 1892. That's wrong. That's not what the official records say. The official records say it was started late 1888 and finished in 1889 in November. Okay, so that's why I call it wacky, because usually has things wrong here, but just the basics. Jerome Wheeler was then a co-owner of Macy's. It was actually his wife that was heir to the Macy's family, but he then later bought in. Visited Aspen in 1883 while on vacation in Colorado. He was impressed by the potential he saw and began investigating the community, completing a smelter that had been started earlier so that the ore did not have to be taken back to Leadville. After winning the legal battle on the rights to the smuggler mine, the richest lode in the area, and then leaving Macy's, he commissioned the construction of the hotel and the Wheeler Opera House, both bearing his name, as well as a house in the West End. Wheeler meant for the hotel to be the equal of great European hotels, such as the Claridge in London and George V in Paris. It was one of the first buildings west of the Mississippi to have a full electric lighting. Other amenities include running water, indoor plumbing, steam heat, and an elevator. At the time of its opening, Thanksgiving, it had 90 rooms, or 76 according to some accounts, which rented for Okay, included business from the east. Okay, so there's Jerome Wheeler right there. And this is the grand ballroom. What else we got? This is the entryway, the lobby. This is the exterior. And that's the shot we're familiar with. Okay. So this is just a brief history and what Wacky says. Looking into the materials of the building of the Jerome here, and we have common red clay bricks, 750,000 bricks, and that is 1,721 tons. Okay, we have lime sand mortar. That's 580 tons. And I'm talking about this because we're talking about getting all these materials to the site by hand and with horses and beasts. And even if you have stuff coming up on the train, you still have something called the last mile. So getting stuff to the train and getting stuff from the train to the site is called the last mile. So you've got to get 1,721 tons of clay bricks to the site. You've got to get 580 tons of mortar. And all this is sourced locally. The records say that the sandstone, the bricks, the lime, the foundation, timber, all this stuff was sourced locally. So 580 tons of mortar, 375 tons of sandstone. Foundation aggregate, you got 725 tons. And that's rubble and structural footing stones. And timber frames, you have 200 tons of timber framing. There's the steam plants and boilers in the basement. There's two of those. Two heavy iron commercial boilers and plant components. That's 25 tons that you've got to get down into the pit of the excavation. You got to get those down 15 feet below street level, 25 tons of machinery. The radiators and pipes, that's 7.75 tons. The elevator machinery is 7.5 tons. The elevator, we're going to talk about this more below here. Glass, you got 3.5 tons of glass. So the total weight of the building is 3,657.16 tons. 7,314 pounds. But before we build this hotel, we've got to dig a big hole. And we've got to do it with manual labor and horses. And but this is what we're going to encounter. And from personal experience, I landscaped here, I planted trees here, I dug, and when you do, you just run into rocks everywhere you go. Big ones, small ones. It's just a nightmare. And just for a little more context about what's going on around town, I'm just going to show you the buildings that were built in these, basically in these 2-3 years, and how long it took them to build. Okay, so I have here looked up on the Google machine the buildings of Aspen and the dates that they were built, the dates groundbroken, and the dates it was opened, and the duration it took to build these buildings. And we're going to get into most of them, most of the main ones. So the Aspen block was built in 6 months, June 1886 to December 86. Paragon Building, 1888, April 1888 to November, 7 months. 6 months. St. Mary's, Lefebvre Block, 5 months. Wheeler Opera House, 11 months. The Hotel Jerome, which is where we'll start, that took 15 months. The Beard Block, 6 months. The Independence Square, 8 months. Cohenhoven Building, 4 months. 4 months. Community Church, 11 months. Elks Building, 8 months. Picken County Courthouse, 7 months. Brand Building, 6 months. Collins Block, 7 months. The Armory, 4 months. So I want to add this building to our list. This is the Washington School, and looking up the amount of time it took to build this building, this is the Washington School here, and I'll show it actually in photographs. But the Washington School in Aspen was constructed in 5 months. Okay. The timeline The construction contract was awarded on August 3rd, 1889, and the excavation began the very next day. All right, that's interesting. So, August, they're going to start digging the foundation. Okay, August, September. So you got 2 months basically before it starts freezing. And I asked how deep was the basement. So it says half a floor deep. So normally it would be 12 to 15 foot excavation, but they're saying half a floor. I say show exact depth. It says 5 to 6 feet below grade. But here's what's interesting is that after the building was torn down in the 40s, the stone foundation walls were so deep, solid, and well constructed that when the school was torn down in the 30s, the community left the masonry basin intact for years with explicit intent of converting the old foundation into a municipal swimming pool. So the foundation was so good and well built that they wanted to make a pool out of it, which I thought was interesting. Because all these buildings have basements that go down, not just half a floor, but a whole floor. And these basements, it would just look like giant holes in the ground everywhere when you're building these buildings, and it would take months to dig these foundations alone, and a lot of them were going on at the same time. Not just the digging, but the building. So the demand on bricks and the demand on stone and materials all being rushed around town, all at the same time as a massive mining operation is going on all around them on all the streets. Trains bringing in things, materials, ore being shipped out, silver ore, miners, carriages, food, supplies. I mean, it's going to be chaos on the streets. Not to mention digging the foundations and hauling the debris and the rocks. There's a lot going on here. And a lot of the reason I'm doing this research and trying to put the pieces together is because there are no construction photos for any of these buildings, these brick and stone buildings. None. There's no construction photos. In most cases, there's no blueprints. There's only newspaper articles and photographs before and after they were done, but there's no construction photos whatsoever. Okay, so here's the here's our outline of the Jerome. This is basically the dimensions of the footprint of the building. So you have 125 feet this way and 132 feet this way, and 12 to 15 feet deep. So if you're going to organize a team, you're going to want to put them in an area that is most efficient for clearing the rock away. So here's our guy Abe here. He's going to start digging. And if you put people all over the place here, you're going to create sort of like a waffle of people digging all over here. And it's going to be, it's going to just, there's just going to be no way to bring the wheelbarrows of stuff out. So I would propose to start right here on along this line here and work our way backwards. I think that would be the most efficient way to do it. So if we do that, but here's the thing, you got rocks everywhere, right? So you got glacial till and you've got giant boulders. So these you would have to contend with, which we'll get to. And they're not only so if you're going to dig straight down, you're going to have rocks that are going to be outside of this perimeter because nature doesn't come in squares. So if you dig down here, you're gonna have to deal with this rock. Sorry for this. I can't do it any other way. You're gonna have to deal with these to make these walls flush, right? So you start digging, boom, 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 boom. You start digging, you're going back, and you're revealing these rocks as you're digging, right? And another thing to consider is that the water table is right here. It's 10 to 15 feet. So you're going to start hitting water right around this mark. So this hole is going to start filling up with water as you're digging. And that's going to be a major issue. So coming up, let's just look ahead at what we're gonna discover. So this is a jump chisel. This is one of the mining tools for digging into rock. This is feather and wedge. Sorry for the blurry image, but you drive these spikes into the ground with these little sheaths, and as you hit, the rock starts to split apart in these holes. But you have to have the holes first, and you have to dig the holes, which is what this comes in, or a steam drill, which I'll show you. Um, so you got to dig a hole and then put these in the hole and then crack the rock open. This is a steam donkey, it's called. Uh, yeah, this is called a steam donkey, and they were utilized in the mining era quite a bit. Um, we'll get into that. And here's another steam donkey on a barge of some pile drivers. They're using this to drive piles into the water. Okay, and here's another steam donkey that they use for logging, very popular tool for logging. These are steam drills. So these guys are very proficient with their pipes, very relaxed. Here's another one. Kind of looks like our guy a little bit. So they've got this steam drill and they're going to drill into rock here with this thing, but you got steam. So this would be hooked up to one of these, which we're going to get into and in the coming up episodes. But for now, it's late October. It's started to snow in the pit. We got water coming up. And this is what we're going to look at coming up. You are going to utilize some steam power and how that might help. But for now, we've got a tranquil October morning. I'll call it November. And our guy Abe is off for the winter and is going to enjoy himself here. Even though this horse frozen underwater did not really enjoy the blast, to say the least. But that's not slowing down our guy Abe here. He's going to make the most of this situation. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.